The bell above the cafe door chimed softly as the man stepped inside, shaking the cold from his coat. It was the kind of winter morning that made everything feel heavier: your steps, your thoughts, even your hopes. He paused for a moment, looking around, as if deciding whether he truly belonged there. No one noticed him at first. Just another stranger trying to warm his hands and his heart. But within the next 10 minutes, something small, almost invisible, would happen inside that cafe, something that would ripple through lives in a way no one could have predicted. And it all started with a single cup of coffee. Before we begin, take a second to support the channel. If stories like this touch your heart, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps keep these stories alive and kindness spreading. It was 8:15 a.m. in a quiet American town, the kind where people waved at each other even if they didn't know names. Inside the cafe, the smell of fresh coffee wrapped around customers like a warm blanket. People sat with laptops, newspapers, or simply their thoughts. Behind the counter stood Emma, a young barista with tired eyes but a kind smile. She had been working double shifts for weeks, trying to save money after her mother's hospital bills piled up. Still, no matter how exhausted she felt, she greeted every customer like they mattered. "Next," she called gently. That's when the man stepped forward. His coat was worn, his shoes scuffed, and his hands trembled slightly as he reached into his pocket. He pulled out a few crumpled bills and coins, counting them twice before speaking. How much for a small coffee?" he asked, his voice low. Emma glanced at the register. $2.75, she said softly. The man hesitated. His fingers tightened around the coins. He counted again, slower this time. Then he looked up, forcing a small smile. "I'm a little short," he admitted. "It's okay. I'll just—" "Don't worry about it," Emma interrupted. He blinked. "What?" She smiled warmly. "It's on me." The man stood frozen for a second, as if he hadn't heard right. "You don't have to do that," he said quickly. "I know," she replied. "But I want to." Something shifted in his eyes. Not just relief but something deeper. Gratitude, mixed with disbelief. "Thank you," he said quietly. Emma handed him the coffee, adding a lid and a sleeve. "Stay warm," she said. He nodded, holding the cup like it was more than just coffee. Like it was proof that the world hadn't completely forgotten him. He moved to a corner table and sat down. At a nearby table sat a woman named Rachel, a regular customer who came every morning before work. She had seen the entire interaction. At first, she didn't think much of it, just a kind gesture. But as she watched the man carefully sip his coffee, as if savoring every drop, something tugged at her heart. She stood up, walked to the counter, and leaned in. "I'd like to pay for his next coffee," she whispered to Emma. Emma smiled. "You don't have to." "I know," Rachel said softly. "But I want to." Emma nodded. Rachel left quietly, heading out into the cold. The man never noticed. An hour later, another customer came in, a construction worker named Mike. He was loud, friendly, and always in a rush. "Large black coffee," he called. Emma prepared it quickly. As he reached for his wallet, she paused. "Actually," she said, "your coffee's already paid for." Mike frowned. "What do you mean?" "Someone wanted to pass on a little kindness," she explained. He looked confused for a second, then laughed. "Well, I won't argue with that." He grabbed his coffee, but before leaving, he hesitated. "You know what," he said. "Put $10 toward the next person's order." Emma's smile grew. "Will do." And just like that, something began. A chain reaction. Invisible, quiet but powerful. One act of kindness became two. then 3. Then 10. A college student who could barely afford her textbooks paid for a stranger's muffin. A businessman covered a family's breakfast. A single mom added a few dollars, even though she didn't have much to spare. All day long, the kindness kept moving forward like a wave no one wanted to stop. Emma watched it unfold, her heart swelling with something she hadn't felt in a long time, hope. Meanwhile, the one who had started it all without even knowing, finished his coffee and stood up. He walked slowly toward the door, then paused. He turned back. Approaching the counter again, he reached into his pocket. This time, he pulled out a $1 bill. "It's not much," he said, placing it gently on the counter. "But I'd like to help the next person, too." Emma felt her throat tighten. "It's perfect," she said. He nodded, giving her a small, genuine smile. Then he walked out into the cold, but somehow, he didn't look as heavy anymore. Days passed. The cafe returned to its usual rhythm, but something had changed. People smiled a little more. Conversations felt warmer. Even the air seemed lighter. Emma couldn't stop thinking about that morning. About how one small decision to give away a cup of coffee had created something so much bigger. A week later, as Emma was closing up for the night, the bell chimed again. She looked up and there he was. The same man. But this time, he looked different. Cleaner. More confident. His shoulders stood a little straighter. "Hi," he said. Emma smiled. "Hi. I wanted to thank you," he said. "For the coffee." "You already did," she replied gently. He shook his head. "No. I mean really, thank you." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "That day, I had just lost my job. I hadn't eaten in almost 2 days. I didn't know what I was going to do next." Emma listened quietly. "But that coffee, it wasn't just coffee," he continued. "It reminded me that someone cared. That I wasn't invisible." He smiled softly. "I went to a job center later that day. And I got hired." Emma's eyes widened. "That's amazing." He nodded. "I start full-time next week." There was a moment of silence, one filled with something deeper than words. He reached into his wallet and pulled out a crisp $20 bill, placing it on the counter. "I want to pay it forward," he said. Emma looked at the money, then back at him. "You already have," she said quietly. He smiled. "Maybe. But I think kindness is something you keep passing on, not something you repay." Emma nodded, her eyes shining. That night, as she walked home under the streetlights, Emma thought about everything that had happened. She thought about how close she had been to saying no that morning. How easy it would have been to follow the rules, to stick to routine, to protect what little she had. But instead, she chose kindness. And that choice had changed lives, including her own. Because here's the truth. Kindness doesn't have to be big. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't require money, power, or even time. Sometimes, it's just a small moment, a simple decision to see someone, to care, to give, even when it's not convenient. And you never know how far that moment might go. So the next time you have the chance to be kind, take it. Hold the door. Share a smile. Buy that coffee. Say that encouraging word. Because somewhere out there, someone might be standing on the edge of giving up, and your small act could be the reason they keep going. Kindness is never wasted. It always comes back, sometimes in ways you never expect. And sometimes, it changes everything. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. And remember, be the reason someone believes in kindness again. Because the world doesn't change all at once.